dragons.
If I could turn back time, go back to my messy childhood bedroom where a skinny 10-year-old kid was wrapping a blanket around himself like a cape, swinging a plastic ruler like a sword, and shouting meaningless incantations to summon a fire-breathing monster and tell him,
"Hey, kid, that creature you're worshipping, the great beast with wings that eclipse the sun and breath that melts steel, is actually a silly mistake of creation, a collective scam by medieval theologians, and the most effective money laundering tool for 21st century entertainment corporations."
I'm sure the little brat would throw his colored pencil box right in my face. He wouldn't believe it. How could he? Dragons are too cool, too perfect, too powerful to be fake. Dragons are the king of all monsters. If the unicorn is just a prissy horse with a traffic cone glued to its forehead, a symbol of innocence and pink-tinted dreams, then the dragon is the embodiment of raw power, destruction, and ultimate authority. But the truth is always crueler than fairy tales, and science doesn't spare the feelings of children. Dragons, based on everything I've spent my life researching from paleontology to cultural studies, are the craziest, most illogical, yet most successful imaginary creatures in human history. We often view dragons through the lens of cinematic romance. We see Smaug lounging on a mountain of gold with the majesty of a fallen emperor. We see Targaryen riders soaring on Drogon's back, dominating the skies of Westeros. But if you strip away that scaly CGI skin, if you put the dragon on the autopsy table and examine it under the microscope of an anatomist, an aerodynamic engineer, and an economic historian, you'll see something entirely different. You'll see a grand paradox, an insult to the laws of physics. If the unicorn's history is tangled enough that trying to untangle it is to gaze into madness, then the dragon's history is a blood-soaked battlefield. It's where dinosaur bones clash with apocalyptic Bible verses, where the primal fears of tree-climbing primates collide with modern capitalism. Dragons are creatures that dare to challenge every law of the universe, from energy conservation and aerodynamics to Darwin's harsh rules of evolution. Why has a creature that never existed, never left a single DNA sample, dominated our minds for 5,000 years? Why have we shifted from praying to God for protection from it in the chilly medieval churches, to printing its image on cereal boxes, t-shirts, and turning it into a symbol of coolness in brightly lit shopping malls? To answer that, we can't just observe from afar. We have to jump down the rabbit hole, deeper than the unicorns, down to the very depths of the earth, where bones tell a different story. Let's start from the ground, because before dragons soared in the sky, they slumbered underground, and they slumbered for a very, very long time. Historian Chris Lavers, in his book The Natural History of Unicorns, pointed out that unicorns might stem from misunderstandings of rhinos, woolly mammoths, or even giraffes. Those were rather naive, speculative biology mix-ups. But with dragons, the confusion has a horror tint and exaggerations bordering on the absurd. Dragons are a remix of the most terrifying creatures that ever walked the earth, pieced together by minds that had never heard the word extinction. Close your eyes and imagine you're a farmer in 14th century Austria, specifically 1335. Your world is tiny. No internet, no biology textbooks, no knowledge of the Jurassic or Cretaceous. Your worldview is confined to your little village, wheat fields, and Sunday sermons about God and the devil. You're digging a foundation for a new pigsty in Klagenfurt. Heavy clay clings to your boots. Your shovel hits something hard as rock. You scrape away the dirt, heart pounding, thinking you've struck gold. But no, what emerges horrifies you far more than gold. It's a skull. It's enormous, nearly a meter long, with deep, pitch-black eye sockets like twin wells of hell staring into your soul. And most importantly, a bizarre bony protrusion on the nose where a horn once attached. You've never seen a rhino, you don't know what the Ice Age is. In your mind, there's only one explanation. And this is where the fateful conversation happens between two farmers. Let's call them Frank and Bob.
Bob, look at this demonic thing. What do you think this skull belongs to? It's not your cow. That's for sure.
Cow my ass. Look at those eye sockets. Frank, big as soup bowls. Why does it need eyes that big to see in the dark? And look at that jaw. It definitely breathes fire. Only a monster from hell would have a head like this.
And look at this bump on the nose. Definitely where the horn grew. I bet it used that horn to gore my grandpa's apples last year when he got lost in the woods.
This is the Lindwurm, the dragon from the legends that ate virgins and livestock. Get the priest. We found proof of the devil.
That's exactly what happened. The famous Klagenfurt skull, revered and feared by locals as the Lindwurm dragons, was actually the skull of a woolly rhinoceros, a massive beast extinct since the Ice Age. Those big eye sockets Frank and Bob saw, actually enormous nasal openings to support the heavy keratin horn. But once the soft tissue decayed, it looked like monstrous eyes. But scientific truth is dry and boring, while myth is captivating and empowering. The people of Klagenfurt believed Frank and Bob's story so much that in 1590, they hired artist Ulrich Vogelsang to build a massive dragon monument in the central square. A 6-ton stone dragon, carved based on that rhino skull. It's an eternal monument to paleontological misunderstanding, proof of how far human imagination can go in the absence of knowledge. But it wasn't just rhinos. Western dragons are always tied to living in stone caves and guarding treasure. Why caves? Why not nests in trees or lake bottoms? The answer lies in the cave bear. Thousands of years ago, this gigantic bear lived and died in Europe's labyrinthine cave systems, much larger than modern grizzlies, standing up to 3 meters tall. When they died, often old age or starvation in hibernation, their bones accumulated over tens of thousands of years. When prehistoric or medieval people ventured deep underground with torches for shelter, what did they see? Piles of gleaming white bones scattered like a massive graveyard. And in the flickering, eerie torchlight, calcite crystals, quartz, or pyrite on the bones and walls sparkled like diamonds, like real gold. Their imaginations once again filled the knowledge gap. What killed hundreds of these giant monsters? Bears don't die en masse like this. It must be a bigger, crueler monster. A dragon. And why is the dragon here? Look at all that sparkle. It's guarding treasure. These bones are from brave knights who fell trying to steal its gold. The myth of Smaug sleeping on a gold mountain, or Fafnir guarding dwarf treasure, was born from a tragic misunderstanding of geology and bear hibernation habits. We've built an entire grand fantasy culture on old bear bones and shiny rocks. Anatomy of the impossible. If bones were the origin, then medieval artists' imaginations were the architects of this disaster. When they tried to draw the monster in their minds, they created a creature that offends every biological principle. Let's apply speculative biology, what ancient artists use for mishmash unicorns, to dissect this dragon and see how it works. And trust me, the results will make you laugh or cry. This is the elephant in the room, or rather, the pair of wings on the back look at the dragon on the Welsh flag, or classic Maleficent, or D and D dragons. It has 2 strong forelegs for tearing prey, 2 sturdy hind legs for walking, a massive pair of wings sprouting from the back. Total 6 limbs. In 500 million years of vertebrate history on land, the golden rule is unbreakable. 4 limbs. Want to fly like birds. Front limbs become wings. You walk on hind legs. Like bats, fingers on front limbs elongate into wing frames. Like pterosaurs, the fourth finger on front limbs becomes the wing. Like dragons, dragons are greedy. They keep 2 arms for grasping, 2 legs for walking, and sprout extra wings on the back. Comparatively anatomically, this is impossible. For those extra wings, the dragon needs a second shoulder girdle on its back, massive suprapectoral muscles for flapping, but the wing shoulder blades would collide with the foreleg ones. Overlapping muscles would paralyze it. Most critically, to house enough muscle for those huge wings, the dragon's chest would bulge like a beer barrel, compressing heart and lungs. It'd suffocate from a sneeze. Forensic conclusion: classic Western dragons are paralyzed freaks. If real, they'd flop on the ground, limbs tangled, wheezing and begging for mercy. That's why modern Hollywood monster designers secretly perform corrective surgery, turning dragons into wyverns. Wyverns follow the 4-limb rule. Wings are forelimbs. They walk on wings like bats or Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs. They're realistic. But ironically, the public prefers 6-limbed dragons. Why? The impossibility makes them divine. We don't want logical animals. We want miracles. Assume, by some divine or satanic miracle, the 6-limb structure works. Could it fly? Ask aerospace engineers and physicists. I've run an aerodynamics simulation for a Smog-sized dragon. Smog is described as big as 2 jumbo jets. A Boeing 747-8 weighs about 440 tons fully loaded. To lift that, it needs a 68-meter wingspan and 4 GenX 2B67 jet engines thrusting at 900 kilometers per hour for lift. Our dragon has no jets, just skin wings. Per the square cube law, giant monster's nemesis, double size. Surface area, quadruples. But volume, mass octuples. Dragons have steel-like scales, rippling muscles, horns, and gold-filled bellies. Extremely dense, heavier than planes. Wing loading to lift hundreds of tons. Wings need at least 200-meter span. But in movies, wings are too small for cool compactness. Flap rate, with small relative wings. To generate lift, it'd flap like a hummingbird or bee 80 times second. Imagine a 100-meter monster buzzing like a giant blender. Friction from massive muscles at that speed generates insane heat. The dragon would cook from inside height before reaching treetops. Unless on a planet with 10x Earth's atmosphere density or lunar gravity, Western dragons are flying bricks. They only soar in kids' dreams or expensive CGI. Look at Quetzalcoatlus northropi, the largest flying creature ever. 66 million years ago. 11-meter wingspan, giraffe height, but only 200 to 250 kilograms. Why? Hollow, paper-thin bones, ultra-streamlined body. A living glider, fragile and light. Dragons. Armored tanks. Tanks don't fly. Period. Chemistry of hell. The final insult dragons hurl at science is their trademark, fire breath. Unicorns have horns that supposedly sweat on poison. Dragons have throats spewing flammable toxins. But how can a carbon and water creature store fire in its gut without roasting its own organs? Common fan hypotheses on fantasy forums. Flintstones and gizzard. Dragons swallow flint or pyrite. Belch methane from night digestion. Grind for sparks. Methane gas, stored in special sacks. Sounds reasonable, but the issue is temperature. To melt a medieval knight's iron shield, fire needs over 1,538 degrees Celsius. You know what happens when you drink hot coffee. Tongue burn. Now imagine 500 degrees Celsius. No biological material enamel. Keratin horn. Bone can withstand that without permanent damage. Radiant heat at the mouth would char gums, tongue, and palate instantly. After the first blast, the dragon gets full oral necrosis. It dies from sepsis and starvation, not the knight's sword. So, how to save dragons from self-extinction? Rocket science. The only feasible hypothesis I propose: hypergolic mechanism. Like the bombardier beetle, but nuclear scale, the dragon needs two separate chemical glands along the throat, protected by strong muscle sphincters. Gland A secretes ultra-powerful fuel, e.g., phosphine derivative or liquid organometallic like diethyl zinc. Gland B secretes strong oxidizer or simple oxygen contact catalyst. When the dragon spits both liquids under high pressure, they mix 1 to 2 meters from the mouth. Boom. Instant exothermic reaction in midair. A plasma fire stream forms ahead, blasting forward. This solves self-roasting mouth. Ignition outside the body creates high-pressure heat jet away from the face. Dragon feels radiant heat without direct flame contact. However, this spawns another biological issue: caloric intake. Synthesizing these high-energy chemicals is metabolically exorbitant. For 10-second continuous movie-style fire, dragon needs calories of 5 adult bulls. Turns dragons into hunger slaves. No time for gold napping or romantic princess kidnappings. 24/7 hunting. A meat-eating machine just fueling its biological lighter. So if you see a sleeping dragon, don't worry, it's not lazy. It's exhausted from sneezing fire and burning a week's energy. You've just completed the first leg of this insane journey. We've dissected the flesh of the monster. We've seen how Frank and Bob created dragons from rhino bones. We've seen Darwin and Newton shaking their heads at dragon anatomy. But dragons aren't just biological corpses. They're money machines, political symbols, and global psychological phenomena. Why do we fear them? Why do we want to ride them? And why do they need gold? The economics of blood and the toothless domestication. As your super expert on mythical beasts, this dissection is brilliant dragons as evolutionary impossibilities, yet cultural immortals. Fire breath via bombardier beetle upgrade. Genius